Chapter 1: A Second Chance. John Stain had no direction. His life revolved around the same three things every day: video games, snacks, and a general sense of neglect. The rhythmic hum of his gaming console served as the soundtrack to his pitiful existence. He'd only leave his bedroom to eat or to respond to his mother's inevitable complaints. "John, can you at least clean yourself up?" Carol, his mother, yelled from the other side of the door. John barely acknowledged her, the half-empty bag of chips he was holding too enticing. Her voice, though familiar by now, still managed to cut through the haze of his isolation. "You can't keep living like this," Carol continued, frustration creeping into her tone. "I've told you 1,000 times, no college is going to accept you if you don't start taking things seriously. And your grades? God, your grades." John shifted in his seat, eyes never leaving the screen. Yeah, Mom, I'm listening." "You're not listening," she shot back, but John didn't care. His avatar was about to level up, and the ensuing rush of digital accomplishment was more satisfying than any real-world achievement. She sighed heavily, a sound he'd grown used to. "I just don't get it. You're wasting your potential. You could be something, anything, but instead, you waste it all away on these stupid games." Her words were becoming a blur in his mind. She was right, in a way. John knew it, but it was easier to ignore. Eventually, Carol gave up. She'd tried countless times before, but nothing ever changed. John would simply nod and mumble an apology, which neither of them truly believed. The routine continued until one afternoon when John couldn't stand it anymore. The noise, the tension, it was suffocating. He needed to escape. In a rare moment of initiative, John left the house and headed to the local gym. A month ago, he would have scoffed at the idea, but for reasons even he couldn't quite explain, he'd begun to feel the urge to do something, anything that wasn't gaming or binge eating. The gym wasn't just a way to get away from his mom. It was a way to feel something real, to train his body, to push himself in ways his mind never had. At first, it was awkward. The other gym-goers seemed so focused, so driven, while he felt like a fish out of water. But gradually, John began to find his rhythm. The trainers noticed his effort, even if it wasn't much at first. They encouraged him, taught him martial arts techniques, pushed him to do more than he thought possible. It felt good. For the first time in a long while, John didn't feel like he was wasting his life. Maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something different. A few weeks later, something unexpected happened. As John walked back to his mother's house, still sweaty from his workout, he saw something in the mailbox. It was a letter with a fancy gold seal. His heart skipped a beat as he tore it open. It was from Standle University. "Dear John Stain," the letter began, "we are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted to Standle University." John read the letter again, his disbelief growing with each line. The letter went on to explain that, while he had been accepted, the university required him to maintain certain academic standards. If his grades dropped, he would be expelled immediately. It was a scholarship of sorts. His tuition would be covered, but only if he took it seriously. John had to show it to his mother. He walked into the living room, holding the letter out with shaking hands. Carol's face softened when she saw the letter. "John, is this real?" she asked, voice trembling with emotion. "Are you telling me? This is for real?" "Yeah, Mom, it's real. I got in." Tears welled in her eyes as she read the letter, disbelief melting into joy. "Oh my God, this is it, John. This is your future. You have a chance. Don't mess this up." For the first time in years, John felt something other than indifference. There was hope, a real chance at a better life. But as he left for Standle University a week later, he couldn't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the break he thought it was. Standle University didn't look like what John expected. The sprawling campus was pristine, with gleaming glass buildings and manicured lawns. But there was something off about it, something that made John feel more uncomfortable with every step. As he walked through the gates, he noticed a strange contrast. Everywhere he looked, there were people begging for money. They crouched near the main pathways, some sitting on the cold stone steps, others holding out tattered signs. They were ignored by the crowds of students who marched past them without a second glance, stepping over their hands as if they weren't even there. John's stomach turned. He'd expected a prestigious place, but not like this. It was to the point where even wealthy people were begging. His nerves were at their peak when he stepped into the admissions office to confirm that his name was on the list. He felt like an imposter. He couldn't afford to be here. He wasn't part of this world. But the receptionist smiled warmly and confirmed that he was in fact a student. His name was on the list. John almost asked if they were sure, but he bit his tongue. He didn't want to seem any more out of place than he already did. He made his way to his first class, the weight of the situation pressing heavily on his chest. As the bell rang, signaling the start of his semester, he found a seat near the back. The professor, a woman with sharp features and a no-nonsense attitude, walked into the room. "I'm Professor Conley," she announced, "and I'll be teaching you about profits for the rest of the semester. But let me be clear, this school isn't just about academics. We pride ourselves on admitting the most prestigious families, the wealthiest people. This is about legacy. This is about power." John felt his stomach lurch. This wasn't what he'd expected. "Let's start with introductions," Professor Conley continued. "Please state your name and tell us about your family." John's heart began to race as the students around him started their introductions. A girl stood up, confident and poised. "I'm Claire York. You may have heard of my father, Jason York, CEO of America." She smiled, and half the class turned to her with awe in their eyes. One by one, the students introduced themselves, mentioning powerful parents or famous family names. John shrank in his seat. His hands were clammy, his heart hammering in his chest. He was nothing like these people. His family was ordinary, no corporate empire, no billion-dollar inheritance. If anything, they were closer to $1 billion in debt. "John Stain?" Professor Conley called. The room fell silent and all eyes turned to him. John's throat went dry. Sweat beaded on his forehead. He stood up, his mind blank. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. Should I lie? Should I make something up to fit in? But no, then they'd know eventually that I'm poor. "John, introduce yourself," Professor Conley said, impatience creeping into her voice. John stammered, his thoughts a whirlwind. "I'm John. My family. Well, we're, normal." Just as he was about to say more, the bell rang. The class erupted in movement as students packed their things and left. John exhaled sharply, relieved. That was close. Later, he made his way to his dorm room, still feeling the sting of the day. When he opened the door, he froze. A woman was inside, half-dressed. John panicked and quickly backed out, almost tripping over his own feet. "Am I rooming with a girl?" he thought, flabbergasted. This school keeps getting crazier and crazier. Before he could process what had just happened, the door opened again, revealing the same woman, now fully clothed, accompanied by a man who seemed to regard John with a strange mix of curiosity and amusement. "Oh, sorry," the man said with a smirk. "You're the newbie, right? She was just leaving." He shoved the woman out of the room, then turned to John. "I'm Nate, your roommate." John managed a nervous smile and shook Nate's hand. I'm John. Nice to meet you." Nate grinned. "My dad owns a bunch of clubs. I can get you all the girls you want. To make up for the awkward moment, I can set you up if you're interested." "No, thank you," John replied, taken aback. Nate shrugged. "Suit yourself. So, what's your family do?" John hesitated. It's a secret." Nate raised an eyebrow. "Ah, one of those, huh?" What does that even mean? John thought, but just nodded. Nate yawned. "Anyway, I'm going to crash. See you around." He retreated to his room, leaving John to process what had just happened. John looked around the lavish dorm room in disbelief. It was golden. His bed was large and comfortable, the room adorned with a chandelier, and there was even a booklet for room service. He collapsed onto the bed, overwhelmed. The next morning, John found an envelope at his door. Inside was a card with a note. "During your next class, you will need to activate this. Your instructor will explain how." When Monday came, Professor Conley addressed the class. "Over the weekend, you should have received cards. These are your lifelines. Your families have provided funds to last you through your time here. Download the app on the board and log in to check your balance," she explained. John followed the instructions, dreading what he'd see. Around him, students complained about their allowances. "Only 100,000? My dad's so cheap," one boy groaned. "My mother gave me $1 million. Guess she knows I'm high maintenance," a girl said smugly. When John's balance appeared, his heart sank. 1 cent? John couldn't believe this. "What am I supposed to do with that?" he thought. "These guys are complaining about 100 grand and $1 million when I've literally got nothing." John's face burned with embarrassment. He raised his hand to excuse himself to possibly use the restroom. He'd been so on edge that he accidentally raised the hand with his phone, exposing his phone screen. "No way," someone said. "He has 1 cent." Laughter rippled through the room. Professor Conley's eyes narrowed. "John, come with me." Outside, Conley's tone turned icy. "What is the meaning of this? This school is for the elite only. 1 cent won't even buy you lunch." Before John could respond, her phone buzzed. She answered, her expression shifting instantly from irritation to fear. "Yes, sir, but I understood." When the call ended, she looked shaken, so much so that she dropped her phone. "You're dismissed for today. See you tomorrow," she muttered, stumbling back into the classroom and bumping into the desk. John walked away, bewildered. What just happened? He thought. He noticed how after that phone call, the professor's entire attitude changed. He'd expected to get expelled or worse. Needing to clear his head, John wandered to the campus beach. The waves lapped at the shore as he sat on a bench, staring at his phone. The memory of his public humiliation replayed in his mind. "I'm doomed," he muttered. Hours passed. As the sun dipped below the horizon, water ran through his toes. John finally stood up, planning to head to his dormitory. Amidst the action, his phone slipped from his grasp. He fumbled to catch it before it dropped into the water below and was successful. He succeeded in preventing it from falling into the water, but his finger swiped down on the phone, forcing a loading screen. The app refreshed itself. John looked at his phone again, and his eyes widened in disbelief. John noticed that somehow he now had accumulated around $14,500 in his account.